Two of the most heroic fathers happen to live just 3 hours away from each other. Both of these dads put their life on the line to save their son. The first in Tomball, Texas, a place where not much usually happens, but in January 2015, a dad sacrificed his freedom to save his son. Driven by sheer desperation and love, he took an action so extreme, most of us wouldn't even dream of it. Can you imagine holding a doctor at gunpoint to save your child? Maybe you'd say yes, but what if your entire family was against you? Why would George Pickering II be forced into that situation? At just 27 years old, his son, George III, got hit with the worst news. Doctors declared him brain dead. That's it, game over. Or so they thought. Machines humming and beeping were the only thing keeping him alive, and as they were about to hit the off switch, the unexpected happened. This isn't just some medical mystery, it's about a father's love overriding what the experts told him. George III suffered from seizures his entire life, but at 27 years old, he had a massive stroke that landed him in the hospital. But his dad had seen him pull through terrible health situations before, but this was a new low. Doctors told the family there wasn't much hope and only life support machines were keeping him alive. The dad was so upset he left the hospital, but while he was gone, the situation got worse. Doctors said George would probably be a vegetable the rest of his life, but they could take him off life support now and he would peacefully pass away. So the rest of the family agreed that's probably what George would want, and they gave the order to let him die. The doctors even alerted an organ donor list that a fresh donor was coming in soon. But just then, the dad came back in extremely drunk. He couldn't believe the rest of his family told the doctors to turn off the machines. They were moving too fast. The hospital, the nurses, the doctors. I knew if I had just 3 or 4 hours that night, then I would know whether George was brain dead. But no one would listen. Doctors came in to begin the procedure. So in a panic, George II went out to his car, grabbed a 9mm handgun, walked back into his son's hospital room, pointed it at the doctors and said, "I will kill all of you." Just then, his other son wrestled the gun away as doctors and nurses ran out of the room and called 911. But George screamed he had another hidden gun and hunkered down with his son still on life support. Police arrived and a SWAT team surrounded the hospital room. Every other intensive care patient was moved to another floor and negotiations began. George II was squeezing his lifeless son's hand while talking to police, while all of a sudden, his son squeezed back. George couldn't believe what just happened, so he yelled at his son, who was now squeezing back on command. So his dad peacefully surrendered to police and was taken to jail, but he was right. All his son did need was a couple more hours. However, George was booked and charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, which holds up to 40 years in prison the rest of his life. His son was making a full recovery, but George might not be there to see it. The judge let George out on bail, but put a no contact order in place while they got the details straight. That kept the dad from seeing his son. But the first thing George III did when he got out of the hospital was go see his father. The two were so inspired by what happened, they went to church on Easter Sunday to get baptized together. But that was a direct violation of the judge's orders, so George II got thrown back into jail to await his trial. He stayed behind bars 11 months before seeing the judge. But in that time, the details of what really happened at the hospital began to emerge. When George walked into the courtroom, he learned one assault charge had already been dismissed and the other reduced. So he was given credit already for time served and walked out a free man right then and there. Today, George III is fully recovered and living a full life. But just 3 hours away, a man named Landis Hooks jumped on top of his son to save him from being killed by a bull. Cody Hooks was just 18 years old and learning the family business of bull riding. It's an extremely dangerous sport, and riders know exactly what to do when they get knocked off the animal. Cody was a rising star on the rodeo circuit. He committed full-time to bull riding at age 13 after watching his dad growing up. Landis was a pro bull rider as well and showed his son everything, but most importantly, how to escape a ride alive. Cody has dozens of rides posted on his Instagram and feels completely at home on top of a raging bull. But in 2022, he laid on the ground helpless. At the Bell County Rodeo in Belton, Texas, Cody waited on top of a 1,000-pound bull named Twizzler before his ride. But his 40-year-old dad watched in the stands as Cody was bucked off a second into his ride. Then bam, his head slammed on the ground, knocking him unconscious. Several cowboys ran over to try to contain the bull, but Cody didn't move. His dad watched his son seize up on the ground helpless, so without thinking, he jumped out of his seat onto the ground to protect Cody. Just then, Twizzler noticed all the commotion and started running to him. It lowered his head, but instead of goring the father and son, it just pushed them with his head as the dad shielded his son's body. If you look closely at the fall, it wasn't just his head hitting the ground. The bull actually stabbed him with its horn in the knockout spot on the back of his head. If Landis didn't instinctively jump down, it could have broken Cody's ribs or worse, stomped on his head and killed him. Cody posted the clip to Instagram and everybody went crazy for the dad who risked his life to save his son. One reporter asked Landis if anything could have stopped him. "No, ma'am, not at all. He knows how I am and nobody could have stopped me." But one person did end up stopping 18-year-old Cody. After getting knocked out, it became easier and easier for him to suffer a concussion. He even started riding with a helmet, but it didn't help. In just a 1-year span, he was concussed 10 times, with 4 of them complete knockouts. Again, bull riding is dangerous, but this was another level. If this was the NFL, doctors would have forced him to retire. But Cody is fighting back. I talked it over with my doctor yesterday, who has a cowboy background and understands rodeo pretty well, and I'll be out till next season, 2024. So hopefully, like every other time I've gotten sidelined, I come back stronger and better than I was before. He wants to come back. Why? Because bull riding is the fastest growing sport in America. There's over 20 million fans of the Pro Bull Riding League, and Cody is trying to break in like his dad. If Cody makes the PBR, it can be lucrative, but deadly. Since 1989, 20 pro riders have been killed. It's hard for people to understand why Cody would want to come back, but it's not just a sport for him. It's a lifestyle. But for now, Cody is trying to get other riders to start wearing a helmet before it's too late. He knows it's a tough battle because it's not a cool thing to do. Back in early November, I had gotten stepped on the head, which forced me to wear a helmet because I quite possibly might not wake up the next time I take a shot without one. And thanks to 2 good friends of mine for keeping my ear attached to what's left of my head that night.